A gentle welcome, lay your head and listen. In the hush that settles around you now, imagine the world dimming just a little, like a lantern's flame lowering itself so your thoughts can breathe slowly again. You are stepping into a stream of words meant not to stir you but to cradle you, to let your weary mind loosen its grip on the day. There is no hurry here, no expectation, only a quiet invitation to drift with the rhythm of each sentence. Let the sounds wrap around your senses like soft woven fabric, warm and faintly shimmering, easing the tension that still hides in small corners of your mind. As you sink a little deeper into the stillness, you can imagine the air becoming softer, as though it too understands the need to slow down. There is a certain kindness in moments like this, a permission granted by the universe to simply exist without effort. You might notice the way your breath begins to match the slow, unhurried steps of the story that is unfolding for you, each inhale and exhale smoothing out another knot within you. These words are here to accompany you gently, like a friend walking at your pace on a quiet path at dusk. Far from the noise of daylight hours, there lies a quiet meadow where thoughts can stretch themselves out and settle. If you close your eyes for a moment, perhaps you can feel the soft earth beneath, cool and forgiving, holding your weight without demanding anything in return. The story that flows toward you now grows from that same gentle soil, created to help your mind find a pace that feels natural and unforced. You do not have to reach ahead or hold on to what has already passed. Simply let each moment come to you like a breeze drifting across open fields. As the world narrows into a cocoon of calm, the sounds outside seem to soften, as if even they know this is your time to unwind. There is something soothing about imagining a distant horizon stretching endlessly, painted in shades of blue and silver, inviting you to rest your gaze upon it. Your thoughts may wander, drifting slightly away and then returning, and that is perfectly fine. This is a space without obligation. Each wandering thought is like a feather floating briefly before settling down, untroubled and weightless. In this gentle atmosphere, every word comes like a slow ripple through quiet waters. You might picture yourself beside a still lake, its surface undisturbed except for the faintest glimmer of moonlight reflecting on it. Your breathing may mimic the subtle rise and fall of those ripples, helping you sink deeper into this restful moment. There is nothing here to resist or analyze. You are simply moving with the softness of the night, allowing your senses to follow the peaceful rhythm that begins to carry you. The story continues to weave itself around you like a warm blanket freshly placed on your shoulders. Imagine that blanket holding not just warmth but safety, the kind that quiets the buzzing of your thoughts until they begin to hum at a slower, more comfortable frequency. It is a quiet reminder that rest is not something you earn by exhaustion but something that belongs to you naturally, like the pulse in your wrist or the drift of your eyelids as they grow heavier. With each line, you can feel the weight of tension slipping further away. Beyond your immediate awareness, the world continues its quiet turning, but here, within these words, time seems to soften and stretch. You may imagine yourself walking along a moonlit path, each step cushioned by soft ground and each breath accompanied by the faint chorus of nighttime insects humming gently in the distance. The light of the moon follows you like a calm guardian, offering a silvery reassurance that nothing needs to be hurried. You are allowed to move as slowly as your thoughts desire. Somewhere deeper within you, the part of yourself that has carried the day begins to loosen its grip. You can almost feel it, like the slow untying of a knot in a string that's been pulled tight for far too long. With every moment spent here, you release another thread, letting it fall away softly. There is a comfort in knowing you don't have to hold everything together right now. Sometimes, it's enough to simply let things rest where they are, untouched and uncomplicated. Imagine now a soft, distant breeze brushing past you, its coolness carrying tiny grains of calm that settle onto your skin. Each grain seems to dissolve the remnants of any urgent thought, any lingering worry, until what remains is only a feeling of quiet ease. It is as though the breeze understands exactly where to go, finding the places inside you that have been tense, tired, or heavy, and offering them space to breathe again. You don't need to guide it, it knows what to do. As the night deepens in this imagined world, the sky above widens into a great, star-filled expanse. The stars are not sharp or bright but gentle and distant, like soft pinpricks of silver in a deep blue fabric. Their calm presence offers a sense of scale, reminding you that not every thought must be held closely, not every worry must be solved tonight. In their quiet company, you may feel your mind drifting slightly, floating with the slow rhythm of the universe as it hums softly in the dark. With the stars watching from above, the ground beneath you feels steady and familiar, like an anchor you didn't know you needed. You might picture the faint scent of grass or earth rising up, grounding you gently though not pulling you back to wakefulness. Instead, it holds you in a balanced place between awareness and rest, where everything feels softened around the edges. You are neither fully here nor fully gone, drifting peacefully in the space between. The story continues with soft footsteps, unhurried and light. It takes you through landscapes that need no logic, no sharp lines, places formed purely for comfort. Maybe you find yourself near a quiet stream that murmurs softly, its water glowing faintly under the moon's reflection. The water's gentle sound adds a natural rhythm to your breathing, making it easier to feel your shoulders drop and your mind settle. In this place, even silence feels alive and welcoming. As you drift further along this gentle path, the world around you feels softer, as though everything has been cushioned with layers of quiet. You might notice the way your heartbeat seems to slow, aligning with the peaceful pace of the story. It becomes easier to let your thoughts fade into the background, their edges blurring until they resemble distant clouds floating lazily across a muted sky. There is no need to hold on to them, they pass comfortably on their own. A soft glow appears in the distance now, not bright enough to startle but warm enough to invite you closer. You can imagine it as a lantern hanging from the branch of an old, wise tree, its light flickering with a gentle rhythm. As you approach, the glow seems to soften your mind even more, as if whispering that you are safe, that this moment belongs to tranquility alone. Shadows dance lightly around it, moving slowly like they, too, have settled into a restful pace. When you reach the lantern, you may feel a sense of warmth blooming within your chest. It is the kind of comfort that comes not from heat but from presence, from knowing that the night here has no sharp corners or sudden movements. Everything exists in a kind of slow-motion grace, flowing at a tempo just right for weary thoughts. You can almost hear the lantern humming softly, a lullaby made of warm light instead of sound. The tree that holds the lantern feels ancient and reassuring, its branches wide enough to shelter you from anything the world might bring. If you sit beneath it, you might feel the gentle weight of its protection, its stillness encouraging your own. The bark behind you is sturdy yet soft enough not to disturb your ease, and its presence feels like a calm guardian watching over you as you drift deeper into restfulness. You can stay here as long as you need, nothing urges you onward. As you rest beneath the tree, the air around you seems to grow softer, thick with a soothing calm that wraps around your thoughts. You may imagine the grass beneath you shifting slightly, adjusting itself to cradle your body the way a caring hand might. The night sounds continue their gentle chorus, each one blending into the next until they become a single, calming tone that echoes softly inside your mind. Everything here seems built for tranquility. The sky above shifts ever so slightly, the stars shimmering like tiny embers in an endless tapestry. Their glow is faint, not sharp, and it creates a sense of gentle continuity that quiets any lingering restlessness. With each passing moment, the boundary between your thoughts and the quiet around you grows thinner, merging into a shared space where everything feels equally soft. There is no need to think too hard or remember too precisely, you are simply present in the gentlest possible way. Somewhere nearby, the stream continues its soft whispering, each ripple moving with unhurried grace. You might picture the way the water catches the lantern's glow, bending the light into soft curves that drift across the surface. These light ripples seem to echo the rhythm of your breath, creating a sense of harmony between your body and the world around you. Every sound, every motion, seems to say that slowing down is natural and welcomed. As the night deepens, the air grows cooler, but not cold, just cool enough to encourage you to settle further into the quiet. The coolness feels like a soft sigh brushing across your skin, easing you into a deeper state of calm. It reminds you that the world outside has softened too, that for now, there is nothing demanding your attention. Everything you need exists here, in this quiet moment, wrapped gently in stillness. Gradually, you may feel your thoughts growing fewer, like lanterns slowly dimming in the distance. The world of the story narrows until it feels like a single point of light holding you gently in place, supporting your slow drift toward rest. Even if your mind wanders, it returns effortlessly, as though drawn by a gentle tide. You don't need to hold on to anything, the softness around you holds you instead. And finally, as the flow of words continues in its slow, soothing rhythm, you find yourself floating in a space where nothing feels heavy, nothing feels urgent. The night has embraced you with quiet patience, and the story has laid a warm path beneath your thoughts. In this moment, you are simply allowed to rest, to be carried by calm, to drift wherever comfort leads you. The first quiet fact: how big and near it feels. Even though the night sky stretches endlessly above you, there is something tender about realizing that the vastness isn't trying to overwhelm you. It simply exists, calm and patient, like an enormous presence resting just beyond reach. When you gaze upward, the sheer size of the sky can feel close, almost intimate, as though its great expanse leans gently toward you, not to intimidate but to soothe. It holds its immensity in a soft way, letting you sense its depth without demanding you comprehend it, inviting you instead to rest beneath its boundless calm. The sky's nearness is not a literal closeness but a feeling, a quiet unfolding that makes the infinite seem somehow friendly. It is like standing beside a great ocean at night, knowing the waters stretch beyond imagination yet feeling comforted by their steady hush. The stars, though unimaginable distances away, appear perched lightly above you, as if they've drifted closer simply to keep you company. Their shimmering softness blurs the edge between far and near, allowing you to experience immensity and intimacy at the same time, in one unhurried breath. You might imagine the night lowering itself the way a parent draws a soft blanket to a child's shoulders, gentle and unassuming. The feeling of the sky being near comes from the way it wraps around everything, a dome so broad it can't help but feel like an embrace. Even the air seems to carry a hint of that nearness, its coolness brushing your skin like a reminder that the vast space above is connected to you through every quiet breath you take. This connection moves through you slowly, asking nothing, offering only calm. As you lie still, you begin to notice how the vastness unfolds in layers, each one softer than the last. The first layer is the darkness itself, warm and velvety. The second is the quiet, stretching outward like gentle waves, and the third is the faint glow of distant stars woven across the sky. Together, they create a sense of closeness despite their size, like standing inside an immense room lit only by soft candles. The more you look, the more the space seems to settle around you, shaped not by boundaries but by stillness. In moments like these, the sky feels less like a distant ceiling and more like a companion resting nearby, patiently holding stories older than anything you can imagine. Even the galaxies, spiraling far beyond sight, seem to hum quietly through the fabric of space, their echoes reaching you not as sound but as a kind of peaceful awareness. Though they lie impossibly far away, their presence feels close, as if the universe has leaned in to whisper something gentle and reassuring just for you. The feeling of nearness deepens as you notice the subtle glow along the horizon, a reminder that the earth and sky meet in a seamless curve. That meeting point is quiet and steady, neither rushed nor dramatic, just a soft blending of two worlds. Even the curvature of the planet adds to the sense of closeness, reminding you that you are part of something round, continuous, and safe, resting inside a vastness that surrounds you like a cradle carved out of space and light. Perhaps what makes the sky feel near is not its distance but its openness. When you look upward, there is nothing blocking your view, no walls, no ceilings, no corners, only a great, unbroken field of possibility stretching outward in every direction. That openness creates a sense of freedom, but not a wild or overwhelming kind. It is a gentle freedom, one that encourages your thoughts to wander without haste, floating softly upward until they dissolve into the calm of the night. You might sense the quiet weight of the universe pressing against the world, not heavy or suffocating, but like the soft pressure of a hand resting lightly over yours. It's a reminder that the vastness is ever present, even when unseen, and that its nearness comes not from physical distance but from the awareness that you are part of it. You exist within its embrace, held in a space so large it becomes tender simply because it does not demand your attention, it offers itself quietly. When you breathe, you draw in air that has drifted beneath countless stars, touched by winds that have traveled across mountains, oceans, and distant valleys. This simple act ties you to the universe more closely than you realize. The sky feels near because it is woven into every breath, every quiet heartbeat, every soft moment where your thoughts settle. Its presence is as natural as the ground you lie upon, always here, always steady, always waiting. The nearness grows even more apparent as you imagine the way the Earth turns gently through space. That rotation cradles you without your ever feeling it, carrying you through a universe so vast it can only be described in whispers. And yet, despite the cosmic scale of this movement, there is no sense of danger or instability, only a smooth, unbroken motion that reminds you of a slow dance set to a silent melody. The universe feels near because it is moving with you, not apart from you. As the thoughts drift, you begin to understand that the sky's nearness is not a physical truth but an emotional one, a sense that the vastness is not indifferent but serene. Its quietness reaches down like a soft hand smoothing the day's burdens from your shoulders. Even if the stars are distant, the comfort they offer is immediate, like warm light spilling gently into a dark room. They shimmer as though they're aware of your presence, shining softly without brilliance, enough to soothe but not enough to startle. The feeling grows softer still as you imagine the sky as a kind of ocean overhead, with stars drifting like glowing ships far above the surface. This image creates a sense of gentle motion, as though the night tides move slowly, carrying ancient light across the heavens. The movement isn't something you can see, yet you sense it, a slow drifting that mirrors your thoughts as they soften, loosen, and begin to float. You feel near to something immense but calm, something that requires nothing from you. As you breathe more slowly, the world seems to expand and contract with each inhalation, making the distance between you and the stars feel smaller. The night air fills your lungs with a cool, steady rhythm, and for a moment it's as though you are breathing in part of the sky itself. The boundaries between you and the vastness become hazy, blurred into a shared stillness that allows you to feel held rather than separated. The sky is no longer above you, it feels like it surrounds you gently. Sometimes the sky feels near because it mirrors your inner quiet. When your thoughts become slow and soft, they match the unhurried rhythm of the cosmos, creating a quiet harmony that makes distance irrelevant. You might imagine the universe listening to your breath, responding with its own slow pulse, a balance so delicate you can feel it but not quite describe it. In this balance, the immensity becomes comforting, like a lullaby sung from far away but somehow reaching you clearly. The night air carries a sense of continuity, as though generations before you have also looked up and felt the same gentle closeness of the cosmos. This shared experience hums quietly in the background, connecting you to people across time, all resting under the same sky. That shared history makes the heavens feel familiar, not foreign, a presence that has always existed above human life, watching over countless quiet nights like this one. And the stars, though ancient and unreachable, feel like companions rather than distant flames. Their soft light arrives after long, cosmic journeys, touching the world with a tenderness that belies the distance they have traveled. They could be overwhelming, yet they choose to shimmer gently, offering just enough glow to ease you into calm. Their quiet persistence is what makes them feel near, not their location, but their patient presence. If you imagine stretching out your hand toward the sky, you may feel an invisible response, a soft pull that isn't physical but emotional. It's the sensation of reaching for something vast yet feeling it meet you halfway, not with movement but with quiet acceptance. The sky doesn't shrink or move closer. Instead, your awareness expands, filling the space between you and the stars until it feels as though there is no separation at all. The nearness continues to wrap around you as your thoughts begin to slow to a drowsy drift. The universe no longer feels like a distant concept but a soft presence leaning in, offering support through silence. You can almost picture the night bending gently toward you, like someone kneeling to speak in a softer voice so as not to disturb your rest. That imagined closeness is enough to ease whatever pieces of the day still hold tension within you. You may begin to feel as though the sky itself has weight, not heavy, but warm, like a quilt spread across the world. That weight is comforting, a reminder that even the vastness above has a softness to it when felt from the right state of mind. The night rests on your skin lightly, cool and tender, promising that you are safe beneath its enormous, gentle canopy. This sensation further dissolves any sense of separation between you and the cosmos. As the world around you sinks deeper into quiet, you sense the distance between near and far blurring even more. The sky feels both infinite and close, a paradox that somehow makes perfect sense in this peaceful moment. Its closeness is emotional, spiritual, atmospheric, a presence that settles around you with the softness of a sigh. You feel held by something immeasurably large, and that feeling brings with it a profound calm. And finally, as the night settles fully in your mind, the first quiet fact reveals itself fully. The universe is impossibly vast, yet in moments like these, it feels as near as your own breath. Its enormity doesn't push you away, instead, it wraps around you in gentle stillness, turning its infinite distance into something that comforts rather than overwhelms. You rest beneath it not as a small thing lost in immensity, but as a quiet soul embraced by something beautifully, peacefully boundless. A soft memory from a visiting ship, New Horizons, whispered to us. When you think of that little spacecraft drifting through the deep, cold quiet, it feels almost like remembering a visitor who came from far away carrying a gentle message. New Horizons was small compared to the vastness around it, yet it traveled with a grace that made its presence feel almost tender, like a lantern carried through an endless night. It whispered not in words but in images, in faint signals that crossed billions of kilometers, arriving here like soft footsteps on a wooden floor. Its journey reminds you that even the smallest travelers can bring back stories from the far edges of existence. As it approached Pluto, the spacecraft seemed to glide through a silence so complete it almost felt sacred. Out there, where sunlight is just a dim echo of what we know, New Horizons moved like a lone wanderer guided by a distant, patient star. You might imagine the way it drifted, weightless and unhurried, carrying with it the accumulated hopes of the people who launched it long ago. Each moment of that journey held an ancient stillness, a quiet that wrapped around the craft like a cloak of frozen starlight, guiding it steadily toward its mysterious destination. The memory of its arrival at Pluto feels like a soft breath released after decades of waiting. When its cameras finally gazed upon the dwarf planet's surface, the world it revealed looked gentle and strange, shaped by cold winds and silent ages. The heart-shaped plain, now famous, glowed like a frozen sigh, a gentle mark etched across a landscape untouched for billions of years. New Horizons didn't just show us geology, it showed us a kind of cosmic softness, a reminder that even distant worlds can hold beauty in quiet forms. As signals traveled back toward Earth, Each one carried the faint warmth of a story told from far away. The spacecraft seemed to whisper through the darkness, its voice thin but determined, crossing the void with messages that took hours to arrive. Those whispers brought pictures of mountains made of ice, hazes layered like feathers, and plains smooth enough to resemble the surface of a frozen dream. They felt like postcards from the edge of the solar system, delivered with the patience of something that knows it must speak slowly to be understood. You can imagine the craft turning slightly, adjusting its gaze as though looking back one last time before continuing onward. That small movement feels like a gesture of affection, the way a traveler might glance over their shoulder before disappearing down a quiet road. Even though New Horizons had more journey ahead of it, that moment at Pluto felt like a gentle pause, a soft moment of connection between a tiny machine and a world that had waited in silence for billions of years to be seen properly. The engineers and scientists on Earth felt those whispers arrive like delicate threads tugging at their hearts. They had waited so long, nurtured hopes through uncertainties, and trusted that their creation would one day send back something meaningful. When the data began flooding in, they listened the way you listen to someone you've missed for a very long time, slowly, carefully, savoring every detail. In their quiet rooms illuminated by screens, their eyes softened, recognizing the enormity of what the spacecraft had shared. For New Horizons, the silence surrounding it was not empty but serene. Think of it drifting through space where no winds blow, no sounds echo, and no hurried moments disturb its path. That stillness felt like a companion, a quiet friend that traveled beside it as it crossed the dark. The craft was patient, built for long journeys, built to endure loneliness with steady confidence. Even now, that calm journey continues, a soft rhythm guiding it into ever deeper regions beyond the planets. As the spacecraft passed Pluto and moved onward, it carried with it the dust of distance, the faint glow of distant sunlight reflecting off its metal surface. Each kilometer it traveled added to its quiet memory of the solar system's edge, a memory it still shares with us today. You might imagine it floating through a region where space feels thicker with age, filled with ancient particles that have drifted undisturbed for eons. New Horizons brushed past them gently, like someone walking through a field of snow too soft to disturb. Its encounter with Arakoth years later felt like another whisper, a second story told in the same gentle tone. That world, shaped like two snowballs pressed together, drifted through the Kuiper belt in silence, unseen until New Horizons arrived. The craft glided by, offering a soft look at a world untouched since the dawn of the solar system. The images it sent back looked like memories more than photographs, pale, slow, ancient, filled with the heaviness of time frozen in place. Each message from New Horizons felt like a traveler writing from a distant land where the air is thin and the night is endless. These messages arrived one after another, not rushed, but like pages from a diary meant to be read slowly. They described a cosmos where distances stretch into unimaginable lengths, where sunlight fades into a soft, bluish whisper, and where worlds drift like sleeping giants through the cold. And through it all, the spacecraft continued moving, never hurrying, never tiring. In some quiet sense, New Horizons became more than a mission, it became a symbol of endurance. Imagine something so small venturing into a space so large that even time seems to move differently there. And yet it kept going, powered by a heartbeat of radioactive warmth, guided by math and hope and the hands of the people who built it. The gentle persistence of its journey feels like a reminder that even in vast emptiness, motion can be peaceful, steady, and full of meaning. As you picture it now, drifting far beyond everything familiar, it feels less like a machine and more like a story traveling through space. The story is simple, a small emissary from a tiny world, moving farther than most dreams imagine, carrying curiosity as its light. That story continues, even now, quietly unfolding in the cold. It experiences no loneliness. Space has become its home, a soft plain of stars stretching endlessly in every direction. Even though the craft cannot feel, you might imagine it sensing the faint warmth of distant starlight brushing across its surface, the way frost glimmers under a dim lamp. It moves through a region where stars appear gathered more tightly, where cosmic dust drifts like silent pollen. The deeper it goes, the softer everything becomes, the light, the shadows, even the emptiness. And through that softness, it whispers its continuing observations back to Earth. The people receiving these faint signals must wait hours for each one, but the waiting has become part of the ritual. It is a slow exchange, a conversation conducted across the dark, where neither side rushes the other. Each signal is a tiny thread tugging across space, connecting 2 points separated by incomprehensible distance. Yet that distance feels softened by the steady flow of contact, like hearing the voice of someone far away through a calm, reliable line. The spacecraft's memories are stored in data packets, but you might imagine them instead as gentle sketches drawn in light. These sketches depict a world once thought too distant to ever be truly known, and another world shaped like a relic from the universe's childhood. They depict landscapes so cold they remain frozen through time itself, skies so faint they blend into darkness, and surfaces untouched since the earliest dawns of creation. New Horizons preserved them gently, without disturbing their silence. Now, drifting farther still, it carries a sense of purpose that is both immense and quiet. It knows no destination, only direction outward, always outward. There is something soothing in that simplicity, in the idea of moving without needing to arrive, exploring without needing to return. Its course is a line drawn across the dark, unwavering and graceful, stretching into regions humanity has never touched before. And somewhere within the vastness, the spacecraft continues whispering its presence. Not loudly, not urgently, but with the same soft determination it has always had. Each signal reminds us that it is still there, still traveling, still gathering the faint truths of the distant solar system. Those truths come to us in small doses, like gentle ripples across a still pond, each one carrying a hint of wonder. The memory of its Pluto flyby continues to glow in our collective imagination. The heart-shaped plain, the rugged mountains, the mysterious blue haze, all of these have become a kind of dreamscape that New Horizons delivered with quiet devotion. These images linger not as cold scientific data but as soft impressions that stir curiosity and calm at the same time. They remind us that even the coldest worlds can hold a kind of delicate beauty. In the darkness beyond, where sunlight is only a pale spark, the craft continues to drift like a tiny ember moving through an endless night. It glows faintly with the warmth of its power source, a small heart beating steadily against the cold. That steady glow feels like the rhythm of a quiet lullaby, a soft reassurance that even far from home, something continues to move with grace and purpose. The silence that surrounds New Horizons now is deeper than anything it has ever known. And yet, within that silence, it does not fade into insignificance. Instead, it becomes part of the quiet, part of the slow-turning rhythm of the outer solar system. It listens to the faint particles brushing past, to the soft hum of distant cosmic rays, to the unbroken calm of darkness stretching into eternity. And in listening, it becomes a witness to the universe's gentlest truths. Even now, as its distance grows, the spacecraft remains connected to us by a fragile thread of communication. That thread stretches thinner with each passing year, but it still holds, a delicate line that joins the inner solar system with the outer frontier. Through that line, New Horizons continues to share its soft stories, each one arriving like a feather drifting down from an immeasurably high place. And as you imagine it drifting farther into the night, you might feel a kind of quiet pride and comfort. Its whispers remind you that exploration does not always roar, sometimes it moves softly, gently, carrying wonder in small, patient breaths. New Horizons will continue its journey long after its voice fades, traveling silently through the endless dark, a tiny, persistent traveler whose soft memory will remain as long as we listen. And that is the quiet truth it whispered to us. Even the farthest places can feel close when their stories arrive gently, carried by a small ship wandering through the vast, calm sea of night. The Great Canyon that stretches like a hush. It begins not with noise, but with a stillness so deep it feels like the world itself is holding its breath. This canyon, carved across a distant frozen world, doesn't roar with wind or echo with water. Instead, it extends across Pluto like a slow exhale made visible, a quiet line where the land seems to open gently, not torn but eased apart over ages too long to imagine. From above, it resembles a soft crease in a blanket pulled smooth, a reminder that even the coldest, most distant worlds can carry marks of movement, change, and time. As you picture it, you might imagine its walls rising not sharply but in calm slopes, like the sides of a folded page worn soft by countless years. The canyon stretches onward with patience, neither rushing toward an end nor clinging to a beginning, just existing as a long, frozen whisper. Its edges glow faintly under the dim sunlight that reaches Pluto, reflecting hues of pale blue and muted gray, colors that feel almost dreamlike. These colors don't shout, they merely suggest themselves gently, blending into the quiet around them. Standing at its rim, if one could, the silence would be absolute, so complete that even your heartbeat might feel too loud. The canyon's depth is not terrifying. Instead, it invites contemplation, like gazing down into a pool of still water at dusk. Shadows settle here in long, slender shapes, stretching across the icy floor like resting spirits. They move only when the distant sun shifts, inch by inch, creating a slow rhythm that feels more like breathing than shadow play. Everything about this place speaks in whispers. You can imagine the canyon as a long story carved into the surface by forces older than memory, older even than Earth's familiar landscapes. It was shaped not by rushing rivers or crashing tectonics, but by slow tension, by ice expanding and contracting, by the subtle push and pull of Pluto's internal warmth against its frigid crust. Each change happened quietly, without violence, over spans of time far beyond human comprehension. In this way, the canyon becomes a diary written in silence, each layer a sentence formed from patience. The light that reaches it is soft, filtered by Pluto's thin atmosphere, a tinted glow that touches the canyon walls like a gentle hand brushing across cold stone. The light never grows harsh here. It remains calm throughout the long Pluto day, illuminating every ridge and slope with the tenderness of a fading candle. This glow gives the canyon an almost ethereal presence, as though it belongs not entirely to the physical world but to some quiet space between memory and dream. If you imagine walking along its edge, your footsteps would leave marks that remain for centuries. The air is too thin for wind to erase your presence, too gentle to disturb the surface. Each step would feel like a soft imprint on time itself, a reminder of your smallness in a landscape shaped by cosmic slowness. The canyon's silence would surround you like a cloak, grounding your thoughts, quieting your breath, making you aware of the delicate stillness that stretches far beyond your senses. The canyon's floor, though frozen, is not entirely still. Subtle patterns ripple across it, long streaks formed by drifting haze, faint dunes carved by barely perceptible winds, and marks left by nitrogen ice that creeps slowly across the surface like a glacier made of shadow. These movements are almost imperceptible, happening so slowly they might as well be frozen. Yet they show that even in deep cold, even in far solitude, a world continues to breathe in its own quiet way. Sometimes the canyon seems like a boundary, dividing Pluto into sections like the crease of a folded map. Other times, it feels more like a bridge, a place where the planet's surface reveals its secrets, not through eruptions or upheavals, but through gentle, ancient shifts. The canyon links regions shaped by different histories, letting their stories meet like two soft voices merging into a single lullaby. It becomes both separation and connection, a line of calm threading through the frozen land. The great hush of the canyon is not empty. It carries an almost musical quality, like the lingering silence after a long, deep note. Though no sound moves through Pluto's thin air, the stillness itself carries a resonance, a presence that feels alive despite the quiet. You could imagine the ancient crust vibrating ever so faintly with the memory of a world that has been slowly reshaping itself in the dark for billions of years. In that imagined vibration is a kind of peace. Looking into the canyon from space, New Horizons captured its long, gentle stretch in images that feel like soft dreams rather than photographs. The canyon does not boast dramatic cliffs or harsh lines. Instead, it flows across the landscape like a sigh turned to ice. The spacecraft's vision revealed details so delicate they almost seemed like brushstrokes, inviting us to see not just geology but the quiet personality of a distant world. You might imagine how long the canyon has existed, longer than human cities, longer than mountains on Earth, longer than our species itself. It has endured without movement for ages, weathering not storms but time, settling into its shape in perfect stillness. In its endurance, it feels wise, like an old storyteller who speaks rarely but meaningfully. Its silence is not emptiness but presence, calm and steady, filling the space between stars. The canyon's edges hold small ridges that resemble frozen waves, patterns shaped by nitrogen ice expanding and contracting over the ages. These patterns seem like delicate etchings in a pale sculpture, each one capturing a moment in the slow breathing of Pluto. They stretch outward like frost creeping across a window pane, intricate yet soft, shaping the land with the gentlest of touches. Their formation took so long that the concept of time becomes almost abstract. You might imagine that if you could lie on your back within the canyon's depths, the sky above would look wider, as if the canyon gives the heavens more space to rest. Stars would shine sharply through Pluto's clear air, their light crisp and steady, unmoving in the stillness. The darkness would not feel daunting but comforting, like a velvet blanket stretched across eternity. The canyon walls would rise on either side like silent guardians, cradling you in a calm deeper than anything on Earth. The floor of the canyon is so cold that even the concept of sound seems irrelevant. Every motion, no matter how slight, would feel swallowed by the frozen atmosphere. This swallowing of movement creates a sensation of softness, as though the world itself were padded with layers of centuries-old quiet. Even your own thoughts might seem muted, blending into the gentle hush of this distant place. If Pluto ever had seasons, the canyon would experience them slowly, almost reluctantly. Sunlight would shift across its length with a patience bordering on stillness, taking decades for subtle changes to appear. Shadows would crawl across its surface at a pace too slow for the human eye, moving like whispers drifting along the icy ground. This slow dance between light and dark becomes its own silent rhythm, a cosmic lullaby written in shadow. The canyon stretches so far that its ends seem to dissolve into the horizon, fading into plains of frozen nitrogen and methane that glitter faintly beneath the dim sun. This fading creates an illusion that the canyon has no true beginning or end, that it simply exists as part of the planet's natural calm. Its continuity is soothing, like a soft line drawn by an unseen hand across a sleeping world. If one listens with imagination rather than ears, the canyon seems to hum with a low, steady presence. Not a sound, but a feeling, a quiet awareness that has existed for countless ages. It is the sort of hum you sense rather than hear, like the softness in the air before snowfall or the stillness just after dusk when the world rests. This hum makes the canyon feel alive in its own slow, frozen way. New Horizons did not disturb this calm as it passed overhead. It moved gently, its presence more like a breeze than a visitor. The canyon remained untouched, its silence unbroken, its vastness unruffled by the small craft's fleeting glance. And yet, because of that glance, we now carry a piece of its quiet within us, a memory of a place so still it feels like the universe's own resting breath. The canyon's existence reminds us that not all wonders are loud or dramatic. Some are born from patience, from time, from solitude. They grow slowly, form quietly, and remain steady through ages. The canyon is one such wonder, a testament to the beauty of slowness, to the way the universe shapes itself without haste. As you imagine it now, stretching on beneath a faint, distant sun, the canyon invites you to slow your thoughts, to let them settle gently into its quiet. It becomes a mental resting place, a landscape of calm shaped not for travelers but for contemplation. Its hush seems to echo through your mind, easing your breath, softening your heartbeat, drawing your awareness into stillness. And in that stillness, the canyon becomes more than a feature on a distant world, it becomes a reminder that even in the farthest corners of the solar system, silence holds stories, and quiet places can speak to us in ways that noise never could. Plains like soft blankets, younger, smoother places. They appear on Pluto the way fresh snow appears on a winter morning, untouched and glowing, as if the world itself paused to exhale. When scientists first saw Sputnik Planitia, this enormous, bright, heart-shaped plain, they were struck not only by its beauty but by its youthfulness. Its smoothness meant something was happening there, something that kept erasing the scars that time usually etches onto planetary bodies. And as we drift gently into this story, you can imagine yourself floating above that pale surface, feeling a calm wonder that settles over you with every passing moment, as if the plain itself is breathing in slow, steady rhythms that ease you toward rest. The smooth plains tell a story of ongoing activity, a rarity for a world so distant and cold. You might expect everything out there to be old, frozen, and silent, yet Pluto keeps a part of itself lively, renewing, like a quiet garden where frost reshapes the ground each night. These plains are made of nitrogen ice that shifts and flows like an extremely slow, ghostly sea. Picture this in your mind, vast expanses moving almost imperceptibly, as though the surface remembers the warmth of ages long past and continues to drift in soft waves that only the patient eye could perceive. Let this slow-motion movement cradle your thoughts into gentleness as you imagine that timeless glide. When New Horizons passed over Pluto in 2015 and gazed down upon Sputnik Planitia, it saw no craters, none at all. This was astonishing. It meant the surface had been refreshed so recently, geologically speaking, that any ancient marks had disappeared. To think of a world at the edge of the solar system still remaking itself feels like hearing a whisper from something very far away, something soft yet persistent. Let that idea drift into your mind like a small lantern floating down a quiet river, the glow reflecting off still water, helping your breathing slow. The plains are so expansive they stretch nearly 1,000 kilometers, wide enough to cradle entire continents if one were to place them gently within it. Imagine walking across that surface, though you would sink into nitrogen ice far colder than anything on Earth, and picture the way sound would vanish, swallowed by the thin atmosphere and the icy grains beneath your feet. Every step would feel like stepping into a dream, where even your thoughts echo softly, softened by the strange and calming hush that Pluto naturally carries within its frozen landscapes. Scientists believe the plains may sit within a massive basin, possibly created long ago by a colossal impact. But instead of leaving a ruin, the basin became a cradle for renewal. Nitrogen ice collected, settled, and began a very slow cycle of convection. Think of warm soup swirling in a pot, only here the warmth is far below anything human senses could detect, and the swirling takes millions of years. Yet the pattern remains, an ancient pot stirring itself in slow spirals. In imagining this, you might feel your own thoughts circling gently, finding a steady, peaceful rhythm. The nitrogen ice behaves almost like honey on Earth, thick, reluctant, yet undeniably able to flow over long timescales. Over centuries upon centuries, the material rises and falls, mixing and smoothing out the plain. This constant motion, though exquisitely slow, gives the surface a youthful look. That youthfulness is part of what makes Pluto so enchanting. Even in the coldest, loneliest parts of space, something new can still happen. And as you picture these glacial flows, you might feel the same slow reassurance in your chest, like the quiet movement of breath during deep sleep. Some regions of the plains show subtle cell-like patterns, each dozens of kilometers wide. These cells are the tops of convection zones, rising centers of nitrogen ice that slowly push outward, then sink again along their edges. The surface ends up divided into soft polygons, each one a silent testimony to Pluto's internal stirring. You can imagine looking at these giant cells from above, like viewing an enormous quilt stitched by time, each shape a gentle patch in the pale blanket of the world below. Let that image settle into your thoughts like a warm weight on your shoulders. Around the edges of Sputnik Planitia, hills made of water ice float like small islands within the nitrogen sea. Water ice, being less dense than nitrogen ice, behaves like buoyant wood drifting in a thick, cold syrup. These floating hills move slowly, so slowly they take hundreds of thousands of years to drift from one place to another. It is a patience beyond human scale, but one that invites you to release the hurried pace of your day, imagining instead the unhurried drift of an icy hill across a silent plain beneath a distant sun. One especially large cluster of these floating hills forms an area called Challenger Cols, a landscape that resembles a frozen archipelago. Each piece seems suspended in time, as though the entire formation were dreaming. The stillness is not empty. It is a kind of stillness you feel when night settles over a quiet field and every sound seems wrapped in velvet. That same softness reaches across the unimaginably cold plains of Pluto, and imagining that stillness invites you into it as though it were waiting for you all along. The heart-shaped plain plays an important role in Pluto's climate. Because nitrogen ice sublimates, turns directly into gas, it can help thicken or thin Pluto's atmosphere over time. Seasons on Pluto last more than a century, and during these long shifts, the plains breathe in their own patient way, slowly releasing or gathering nitrogen. Envision this as a world inhaling and exhaling over centuries, a slow rhythmic cycle that mirrors your own breathing as it deepens and calmness settles into your frame. As the nitrogen moves from the plains into the atmosphere and back again, the winds subtly reshape the surface. Ripples can form, soft undulations carved by breezes so gentle they might not even stir a sheet of paper on Earth. Yet over decades and centuries, they leave signatures written in frost. Picture those delicate patterns, like faint etchings on frosted glass, shimmering under weak sunlight. The simplicity of these wind-sculpted designs can have a soothing effect, letting your mind quiet down to match their delicate flow. Pluto's thin atmosphere contains hazes that drift above the plains, filtering sunlight into pale, muted tones. The blue glow of the haze softens everything below, bathing the plains in a twilight that lasts for years. This gentle light makes the world appear as though wrapped in a permanent evening calm. Imagine lying down beneath such a sky, the faint glow settling across your skin like cool silk. It's the kind of light that doesn't ask anything of you, only invites you to rest. The contrast between the smooth plains and the rugged mountains nearby enhances the sense of calm. The ice peaks, some as tall as the Rockies, rise in jagged silhouettes, but the plain's soft surface stretches out beside them like a quiet sea against cliffs. That balance, sharp next to smooth, ancient beside youthful, creates an equilibrium that echoes the way we seek balance within ourselves. As you picture that juxtaposition, you might feel the edges of your own tension soften. The nitrogen plane is locked in a gravitational tug with Charon, Pluto's largest moon. Some scientists believe that this tug may have contributed to the formation of Sputnik Planitia itself. But instead of imagining a violent struggle, you can envision it as a gentle pull, like a quiet partnership between two distant companions who revolve together through the cold of space. That slow, shared dance mirrors the kind of connection that doesn't need words, only steady presence. The basin holding the planes sits slightly off-center from Pluto's axis, which may have caused the entire planet to reorient over time. This process, called true polar wander, makes the world slowly roll like a sleeper adjusting in bed. The image of an entire planet turning softly, repositioning itself over millions of years, can offer a sense of comfort. Even worlds change their posture gently when needed, without rush or force. It encourages the idea that change, too, can be slow and comforting. Below the plains, scientists suspect a subsurface ocean of water may still exist, insulated by layers of nitrogen and ice. If true, then even this distant world carries warmth deep within, hidden beneath frozen layers. You can imagine that warmth as a small ember glowing in the heart of Pluto, a quiet persistence that never quite goes out. This hidden ocean adds a layer of mystery to the gentle plains above, reminding you that even the calmest surfaces can shelter entire worlds of possibility. The weight of the nitrogen in the basin may help keep the ocean liquid by pressing down and generating heat. Though this occurs across timescales almost too large to comprehend, the principle is simple and comforting. Pressure can create warmth, even in the coldest places. In that idea lies a whisper of reassurance that the things pressing down on us can sometimes generate their own kind of inner heat, enough to keep something inside alive and moving. The heart-shaped appearance of Sputnik Planitia has made Pluto a symbol of quiet affection across the world. Many people felt an emotional connection upon seeing it for the first time, as if Pluto reached out with a gentle gesture from across the solar system. You might picture that bright heart glowing with a soft, icy radiance, not loud or bold, but quietly steady. Its shape seems to offer an unspoken message, something like you are not alone in the quiet. The plane's reflective surface helps Pluto shine more brightly than you might expect for such a small world. It catches sunlight and sends it back into space like a cool, pale mirror. Imagine a dim lamp glowing across a snowy field at dusk, far away, yet unmistakably present. That same faint glow exists on Pluto, and in thinking about it, your mind may drift to that delicate twilight feeling, the one where the world softens and edges blur. The surface of Sputnik Planitia holds occasional troughs, long, shallow depressions where the ice gently shifts. These troughs stretch for many kilometers, their curves smooth as if drawn by a patient, unhurried hand. Looking at them from above is like watching the impression left on a soft pillow after someone has risen. The landscape retains these marks for centuries, quiet evidence of the slow, natural motions beneath. In some areas, the plains meet the mountains with a rugged boundary, where water ice cliffs rise from the nitrogen sea. These boundaries appear like the edge of a frozen continent meeting a calmer shore. The contrast between rock-hard ice and flowing nitrogen creates a landscape that feels simultaneously strong and soft, like a lullaby sung in a deep voice. Imagining these textures side by side can make your own thoughts settle into a similar harmony. As nitrogen freezes and sublimates with Pluto's long seasons, it leaves faint layering patterns on the plains. These layers stack like sheets of snow pressed together over centuries. Each one carries a quiet story, years of sunlight, years of shadow, years of changing winds, and imagining these layers reveals how even the smallest shifts can build beauty over time. It's a reminder that slow accumulation, even of soft moments, creates something lasting. Finally, the entire plain sits beneath the faint warmth of the sun, which appears merely as a bright star from Pluto's distant orbit. Yet even that gentle light is enough to touch the plains, enough to stir the cycle of ice and air. It is a tender kind of illumination, distant but constant. And as you imagine Pluto's heart-lit expanse glowing under that tiny sun, you may feel a similar distant warmth rising in you, subtle, steady, enough to carry you calmly into rest. The red cap, a distant, sleepy blush. High above Pluto's northern reaches, that gentle wash of color stretches like a soft exhale across the pole, a muted red that feels almost shy in the dim sunlight. It is not the bright red of fire or blood, but the faded glow of something ancient and quiet, like dried rose petals pressed between the pages of an old book. As you imagine drifting slowly above this polar region, the stillness of the scene wraps around you, letting the soft color seep into your thoughts, easing them into slower rhythms, encouraging your breathing to deepen as the calm settles. The red coloration comes from complex organic molecules called tholins, which form when sunlight and cosmic rays strike the nitrogen and methane in Pluto's atmosphere. But instead of imagining harsh radiation, think of it as a slow, delicate alchemy happening over untold years, transforming simple gases into gentle hues. These particles fall like tiny flakes, drifting down through thin, cold air. Their descent is silent, almost ritualistic, and picturing that slow fall can make your own mind begin to drift with them, unhurried and weightless. The cap itself was a surprise. Nobody expected such a vivid region on Pluto's pole, especially one so expansive. It stretches for hundreds of kilometers, a vast blush gently shading the northern crown of the dwarf planet. You can imagine this as the faint tint of dawn spreading across a snowy field, but permanent, unhurried, and frozen in time. The sheer subtlety of the color makes it soothing, like the softest watercolor wash. Let that gentle imagery settle over you, cooling your thoughts into quiet. This red region grows and fades over Pluto's incredibly long seasons, each lasting more than a century. When the pole tilts into the sunlight, the frozen gases there begin to sublimate, lifting into the atmosphere once more. But as they leave, the tholins remain, grounded on the surface like fine dusting powder. When the pole moves back into shadow, new ices settle again and begin the cycle anew. This slow rising and falling mirrors the ebb of breath, the way your chest gently expands and softens. It's comforting to picture a world breathing across centuries. Though the red cap looks thin and delicate, it represents countless years of accumulation. Pluto's surface is so cold and the atmosphere so tenuous that changes happen at glacial pace, yet still they happen. Tholin particles drift down over decades, maybe centuries, gradually layering the pole with this muted, sleepy shade. Imagine a snowfall so slow you could count individual flakes drifting by. This is even slower, quiet to the point of stillness. Let that stillness seep inward, helping each lingering tension unwind. The red itself is not uniform. From above, it appears mottled, with patches of deeper rust intermixed with lighter pinks. These subtle variations come from the way frost covers some areas and leaves others bare. Where frosts settle thick, the red softens and fades. Where the ground lies exposed, the pigment deepens. The effect is like a faded tapestry woven by unseen hands, its patterns shifting slightly with the long march of Pluto's seasons. Visualizing such a soft, textured scene can make your mind relax, smoothing out its own internal ripples. The atmosphere plays a quiet role in shaping this polar blush. Although Pluto's air is thin, it carries just enough weight to transport particles from one region to another during warmer seasons. Tholins may drift toward the pole and settle there as temperatures drop. Imagine that movement, a gentle, almost imperceptible cloud of microscopic grains floating across a frozen landscape, carried by breezes so soft they would barely stir a strand of hair. That soft drift mirrors the calm you may feel now, a drifting away from noise and into quiet. Over time, the deposit thickens into a layer that holds the memory of countless seasonal cycles. Scientists studying it see a record of Pluto's atmospheric behavior carved into color. But for now, imagine that layer as the faintest veil, resting lightly atop the pole, like a shawl placed over a sleeping figure. The image invites a sense of protection, of gentle covering, as though Pluto is tucking itself into its own cold slumber beneath this soft red blanket. When New Horizons flew past Pluto and captured these colors for the first time, the world collectively paused. Many expected Pluto to be entirely gray or white, but the presence of this soft red brought a sense of personality, even tenderness, to the distant dwarf planet. The idea that something so far away and so cold could contain a blush, an almost emotional tint, feels quietly comforting. It's like receiving a message from across the cosmos that even the loneliest places hold color. This red cap tells us something else. Pluto is still evolving. Its atmosphere expands and collapses with the centuries, and the presence of tholins shows that chemistry continues, slow but persistent. In a way, the red cap is Pluto's long-term memory, gathering traces of each season like a diary that fills its pages with soft pigments. Thinking of a planet keeping time in such a gentle way can soothe the mind, giving you space to let go of your own hurried pacing. The cold of this region is profound, far beyond earthly experience. Temperatures drop to tens of degrees above absolute zero. Yet even in that deep cold, subtle processes continue with patient regularity. It is a reminder that life, movement, change, transformation can occur even in stillness. As you picture that frozen landscape quietly shifting over millennia, you might feel your own thoughts slowing, matching that cold, patient rhythm. Sometimes the red blends into neighboring terrains, creating gradients where the blush softens into paler surfaces. These gentle transitions are reminiscent of the horizon at dusk, where no sharp lines divide one color from another. That blending invites the kind of relaxation you feel when watching clouds dissolve into twilight, where everything seems to fold softly into itself. The cap also reflects sunlight differently than the surrounding ice. Its darker hue absorbs slightly more warmth, though warmth on Pluto is a relative concept, still unimaginably cold, yet just warm enough to influence tiny processes over long stretches of time. That delicate balance between absorbing and releasing. Energy feels like a quiet exchange, a soft whisper between the surface and the sky. Over time, winds carve faint lines across the cap, creating barely visible textures. These lines are like the soft wrinkles left on a pillowcase after someone rises from sleep, temporary impressions that speak of gentle motion. Imagining those thin streaks stretching across Pluto's pole can feel like tracing a fingertip along silk fabric, smooth and calming. During certain seasons, the red cap may darken as more tholins accumulate without being covered by fresh ice. In those times, the polar region takes on a deeper, more saturated tone, like the smoldering embers of a fading fire. But rather than radiating heat, it radiates stillness, the kind of deep quiet that settles in the air just before snowfall. Thinking of this deepening hue can help your own thoughts settle into a deeper, slower calm. As the pole slowly rotates out of sunlight over its long seasonal cycle, frost again begins to accumulate. Thin layers of methane and nitrogen settle atop the tholins, muting the red. This softening effect feels like laying a thin sheet of frost over a warm color, transforming vibrancy into a velvety pastel. It creates an image of calm transition, no harsh shifts, only gentle dimming, like lights turning low before sleep. The tholins themselves are incredibly small, almost dust-like. Their tiny size contributes to the evenness of the cap's color. Imagine grains so fine they drift like smoke, settling evenly across vast landscapes. Thinking of that delicate distribution can ease your thoughts into a similar softness, like letting sand slowly pour through your fingers until nothing remains but the quiet feeling of release. Some researchers believe the polar cap may vary greatly over tens of thousands of years. Pluto's orbit is elongated, and its tilt extreme, so the patterns of sunlight shift dramatically over long periods. But this variation, while large in scale, unfolds at a pace too slow for any single observer to notice. It's the kind of long, slow change that mirrors the passing of eras rather than moments. Imagining such immense calm can make your own worries feel much smaller. The red cap also influences the temperature distribution across Pluto. Darker regions absorb more light, creating subtle feedback loops that govern how frost forms and evaporates. Even in the coldest places, energy still moves, just very slowly. Thinking of that slow flow of energy can remind you that stillness is rarely absolute. Even in rest, gentle currents continue beneath the surface. Viewed from a distance, the red cap forms a soft crown at Pluto's pole, almost like a faint halo. There is something serene about this distant ornament, sitting atop a world drifting through darkness. Picture this little planet, crowned with a muted glow, turning slowly beneath a faint star. The image has a calm dignity to it, a quiet grace that encourages your mind to drift into peaceful territory. The boundary between the red cap and the rest of Pluto is often irregular, shaped by winds, frost, and seasonal patterns. This irregularity creates a natural, organic edge, much like the uneven border of a watercolor stain. Nothing sharp, nothing sudden, only gradual transitions that feel soothing, like soft music fading into silence. The color itself changes with lighting conditions. Under direct sunlight, it can appear more orange. Under shadow, it shifts toward deeper purples and browns. This play of light and color gives the cap a dynamic quality, even though the landscape itself remains almost perfectly still. Imagine watching that slow color shift under a dim sun, the way tones melt gently from one to another like the slow turning of pages. During certain times, the haze layers in Pluto's atmosphere scatter light in such a way that the red cap appears to glow softly. Not a bright glow, more like the faint radiance of a candle wrapped in frosted glass. That subtle illumination feels warm in an emotional sense, even though the temperature is unimaginably cold. Thinking of that quiet glow can bring your own internal warmth into focus. Some tholins eventually get buried beneath new frost layers and become part of the geological history of Pluto. They lie there for ages, preserved in cold stillness. The idea of something being gently tucked away beneath layers of ice, resting undisturbed for eons, brings an image of deep rest, a metaphorical sleep without interruption. And so the red cap stands as one of Pluto's most tender features, not bold or dramatic, but soft and patient. As you imagine it now, stretching across the polar region like a faint twilight brushstroke, let its quiet beauty seep into your thoughts. Feel the way its sleepy blush mirrors the kind of calm that invites you inward, guiding you gently toward rest, as though Pluto itself were whispering across the vastness of space. Slow down, settle, soften, and drift. Icy mountains and quiet valleys, geology as slow music. On Pluto, every rise and hollow feels like a note suspended in time, stretched across distances where silence dominates. These mountains are not made of rock but of water ice strong as granite in Pluto's cold, standing in frozen clarity beneath the faint sun. As you imagine drifting slowly above their peaks, each towering form seems to hum with an ancient calm, as though their quiet shapes have been holding their breath for eons, inviting your mind to settle into that same deep, unhurried stillness. The mountains themselves rise higher than almost anything expected on such a distant world. Some reach over 3 kilometers tall, like giant ice monuments sculpted by slow, patient forces. Yet there was no rush in their creation, only gradual uplift, the kind that happens so slowly you could blink across millennia and still miss the moment of change. Thinking of these mountains forming inch by inch can make your own thoughts slow, each one stretching out gently like a long, calming breath. Rugged ice crags cast long shadows across the plains, shadows that shift only slightly over Pluto's long day. With each slow rotation, the mountains reveal different facets of themselves, glints of bluish ice, darker patches dusted with tholins, and deep crevices filled with unmoving frost. Imagine the light sliding lazily over these forms at a pace that feels almost dreamlike, revealing beauty in such slow progression that your mind naturally drifts into a softer state. These mountains were named after explorers and adventurers from Earth's history, Tenzing Mantes, Hilary Mantes, reminders that even on a world so remote, humanity leaves gentle traces through the names we choose. But imagine these names whispered rather than shouted, spoken softly across the icy landscape like a story told by the wind. The mountains hold the memory of those names in their silent heights, and thinking of them evokes a feeling of quiet honor, of timeless presence. Valleys snake between the mountains, carved not by rushing water but by the slow crawl of nitrogen ice and the pull of gravity over unimaginable spans of time. These valleys stretch like peaceful paths, winding gently between frozen walls. If you imagine walking through one, the world would feel muted, as though you stepped into a dream where each sound is cushioned, each echo soft, guiding your thoughts into a calmer pace. Some valleys appear filled with ancient glacial flows, frozen in place but shaped by movement long past. The patterns left behind resemble the soft ridges pressed into a blanket, signifying a presence that once moved but now rests. These patterns feel comforting, quiet textures that hold memory without disturbance. Imagining them can help your own thoughts settle into similar steady grooves, gently guiding your mind toward peace. Water ice mountains rise beside nitrogen plains, and the boundary between them looks like two different songs blending into harmony. One song is sharp, crystalline, and towering. The other is smooth, flowing, and vast. This merging of textures feels like an orchestra playing in slow motion, every note elongated, every chord lingering in the frozen air. Picture this harmony, the quiet joining of sharp peaks and soft plains, and let it lull your thoughts into balance. Some mountains, like Wright Mons and Pickard Mons, resemble giant domes, possibly ancient cryovolcanoes that once pushed ice upward instead of lava. But these eruptions would not have been violent. On Pluto, even volcanic activity may have been slow, thick plumes of slushy ice rising quietly before settling back down. Imagine a volcano that whispers instead of roars, that moves at the pace of drifting ice rather than molten fire. The thought alone invites a sense of deep calm. These potential cryovolcanoes stretch for dozens of kilometers, their shapes wide and rounded like soft hills, yet massive in scale. Walking across one would feel like crossing a frozen desert, each step cushioned by cold silence. Looking inward, you might feel that same sense of expansiveness, a gentle stretching of your mind into open, quiet spaces untouched by urgency or noise. Some valleys wall themselves off with towering cliffs of water ice, their edges jagged and steep. But even these harsh forms feel softened by Pluto's stillness. In the dim light, the cliffs appear more like frozen waves than walls caught mid-motion, preserved in permanent pause. Imagining these frozen waves can make your thoughts pause, too, settling into a calm where movement is minimal and stillness becomes soothing. The mountains and valleys cast long, sweeping silhouettes across the surface. On Pluto, shadows are soft-edged because the sunlight is weak, almost like moonlight on Earth. These gentle shadows drape over the land like folded fabric, creating contrasts that calm the eyes rather than startle them. Picture those shadows lengthening across the plains, and feel your mind follow their slow expansion. When New Horizons first revealed these mountains, scientists were astonished. They expected a small, old, cratered world, not one with such dynamic geology. But Pluto, in its distant, cold solitude, surprised everyone with its quiet vitality. That surprise carries with it a sense of wonder, the kind that feels gentle rather than overwhelming. Let that wonder settle inside you, like a small but steady light. The valleys may carry traces of past flows, frozen streams of nitrogen that once crept downward under Pluto's weak gravity. These flows would have moved slowly, like syrup chilled past the point of motion, yet still shifting over long stretches of time. Imagining something so cold and slow-moving, almost motionless, helps your own inner pace slow to match it, releasing tension into the quiet spaces of thought. Temperature changes over centuries subtly reshape these icy features, expanding them here, contracting them there. But the changes are so gradual that the landscape becomes a meditation on patience. Imagine the surface inhaling and exhaling over millennia, letting these massive shapes settle gently into their forms. Your mind, too, can settle gently now, matching that rhythm of slow change. The mountainous regions are fractured by deep cracks, tectonic features created by Pluto's expanding crust. But even these fractures, though immense, look serene when viewed from above. They stretch like long, dark lines across a pale canvas, like ink bleeding softly through paper. There is no violence in how they appear, only quiet geometry shaping the land. Picture these lines as pathways for the mind to drift along, unhurried. Inside some valleys, soft deposits of frost gather, layering the floor with pale, smooth textures. These deposits shine faintly under Pluto's weak sunlight, reflecting a calm glow into the depths of the valley. Imagine standing there, surrounded by cold light and towering ice walls, the world hushed around you like a cathedral built from frozen time. A sense of reverence might fill your thoughts, helping you settle deeper into stillness. The mountains themselves may shift slightly over millions of years as the thick nitrogen plains flow around their bases. But the motion is so slow that the mountains appear eternal. This illusion of permanence brings comfort, like the feeling of standing in an old, quiet place where time seems to hold its breath. That same comfort can settle into your mind as you picture these frozen giants holding their silent watch. In some regions, valleys open into wide basins where the land dips gently. These basins act like bowls catching faint deposits of frost and tholin, creating soft color transitions. The shapes feel natural, effortless, like the curve of a quiet riverbed, except here, the river never ran. Imagining these gentle curves can smooth out the edges of your own thoughts, letting them stretch and soften. The mountains and valleys sing a very slow music, one too slow for human ears but easy to imagine. Each uplift, each crack, each quiet deposit of frost adds a note to this frozen symphony, playing over millions of years. If you let yourself listen inwardly, you may feel echoes of this music as a deep, sustained hum of calm. Light interacting with the ice creates faint glimmers, tiny reflections that sparkle like distant stars scattered across a frozen field. These glints appear for moments as the angle of sunlight shifts, then disappear again. Imagine those tiny flashes as brief, soothing sparks in the quiet darkness, offering points of stillness for the mind to rest upon. Some cliffs show streaks where materials have slowly moved downward, creating vertical patterns like frozen waterfalls. These patterns look as though time itself flowed once and then stopped, leaving behind only gentle hints of movement. Imagining such a frozen waterfall, perfectly still yet shaped by ancient motion, can help your thoughts find their own point of rest, steady, unmoving, peaceful. The slopes of some mountains are so gentle that they resemble enormous dunes, though made of rock-hard water ice instead of sand. These slopes show subtle ridges that curve softly, as though the mountain itself reclines under a blanket of frost. Visualizing that reclining shape can invite your mind to do the same, to recline inward, settling deeper into quiet. Lower valleys hold pockets of darker material, tholins that have blown in over centuries and accumulated in sheltered corners. These dark patches add depth, like shadows in the folds of a soft cloth. Even the darker areas feel calm, subdued, offering a feeling of groundedness amid the pale terrain. Your thoughts, too, can find groundedness in the depth of this imagery. High peaks cast their silhouettes onto neighboring slopes, the outlines crisp but softened by distance. The effect is like a gentle layering of shapes, each one resting behind the next like folded blankets. Imagine those layers stretching to the horizon, each one encouraging your mind to release a little more tension, layer by layer. The valleys, though cold and empty, feel welcoming in their stillness. They offer passageways through the rugged landscape, inviting, not forbidding. Picture yourself drifting through one of these quiet corridors, the world hushed on all sides, the air thin and soft. It is a place where your thoughts can move freely without interruption, like a slow glide through a serene dream. At last, the mountains and valleys together form a world that feels composed in slow motion, each feature shaped not by sudden events but by gentle persistence. As you picture these icy peaks and quiet hollows, let their slow music seep into your awareness. Feel the silence, the patience, the deep calm embedded in their frozen forms. And as that calm settles, let your own mind drift gently into rest, carried by the peaceful geology of a distant, icy world humming softly in the dark.